And welcome to MoCo Drinks, a virtual Tastemakers panel. So I'm Melissa Davis, Senior Marketing Officer for Alcohol Beverage Services, and I am honored and lucky to be moderating tonight's panel, or this evening's panel. So thank you all for joining us. I am joined by Brett Robeson, co-founder Silver Branch Brewing. I love it. He's waving over here. Edgardo Zuniga, founder of Twin Valley Distilling. Alyssa and Josh Amerman, co-founders of Butterfly Spirits, and Corey Van Horn, Director of Marketing for Visit Montgomery. So thank you all so much for agreeing to participate. We are going to have what I suspect will be a fun, freewheeling, robust conversation about everything from the local beverage scene and Montgomery County to how COVID's impacted their businesses, how they've pivoted and innovated, right on down to what they might see for the future for their brands and businesses. So just a little bit of housekeeping really quickly. We're a fairly small group, so we'll see how that goes over the next 45 minutes or so. But for now, if you have questions, throw them into the chat for me. And so we'll hold some time at the end for questions. And if we're not too big a group, we might just have you all jump in, unmute yourselves and ask, but we'll play it a little bit by ear. So let's start off with some more robust introductions. So I gave the who you are, but I would love to hear from you all a little bit more about what you do, why you do it. And I would imagine distiller, brewer, hospitality guru were not titles that folks talked to you about when you were kids. So share with us just briefly maybe how you landed in this industry. So you all are in a special order on my screen. So why don't we start with, let's start with Brett. We'll go to Corey, we'll hit Edgardo, and then Alyssa and Josh. So Brett, why don't you get us started?
Cool. Thanks for the introduction, Melissa. So my name is Brett Robeson. As you mentioned before, I'm one of the co-founders at Silver Branch Brewing Company. Basically, I fell in love with beer while I was in college and started making it and kind of never looked back. You know, in a previous lifetime, I used to work in finance and learned a lot doing that, but ultimately decided that I wanted to pursue my passion. And so back in 2016, right at the end of that year, going into 2017, a colleague of mine who was also you know, I was working in hospitality, the GM at Republic in Tacoma Park. And my business partner, Christian Lakey, was the head brewer at Gordon Biersch in Rockville. And we both, on our own paths in life, had set out to open a brewery someday, and it just kind of dovetailed from there. And we sort of figured out that we really think we could do something awesome together, and then we opened a brewery. So that's the very, very short and condensed version. Silver Branch is located in Silver Spring, Maryland, right near the Red Line Metro. So I'm sure there's plenty of time to get into more stuff, but I figure that's a good way to get it started.
I love it. Thank you, Brett. Corey.
Thank you. So Corey here. I am, my official title is the Director of Marketing for Visit Montgomery. Visit Montgomery is the official tourism organization that markets and promotes Montgomery County as a tourism destination. My background is in hospitality and tourism, primarily in marketing, but also tourism development, specifically in food and beverage tourism development. Believe it or not, I actually have a master's degree in it. So imagine when I told my parents that eating was going to be my lifetime research project. So it's been fun ever since. So basically what I get to do is I get to market fun all day long and promote all the local businesses that are there to here in Montgomery County.
Excellent. Thank you, Corey. Edgardo?
Hi, my name is Edgardo Zuniga, or Zuniga. Most people call me Edgar. I'm the founder of Twin Valley Distillers. It will be 7 years on May 1st when the state of Maryland gave us the license. Well, I got it like 2 weeks before, but they told me you cannot make a single drop of alcohol to May 1st. It's been a challenge the last year, like everybody else. We jumped overnight from bourbon to hand sanitizer. I literally had 200 gallons going to barrels and have to send it to the still to make ethanol. Kind of cry. I really cry. Literally cry. We've been making bourbon. We actually just put 8 barrels to age, 400 gallons technically. We upgrade the distillery in 2020 with the epidemic. I have borrowed so much money in the beginning of the year, even though it was going to be an epidemic, and update the distillery. So right now we produce, I tell my family and friends who do not understand the terms of alcohol, they think the alcohol is fall out of the sky. I say I make around 2,500 gallons of corn porridge in Spanish and English, so they can understand, oh, that makes bourbon. With all the ingredients that we do. We are moving and upgrading the distillery almost every day. Every day it's changing. We're making more and more alcohol. My goal this year is to do 100 barrels of bourbon. I'm not counting the rums and all the stuff. My goal is to not just be just a craft distillery, but my goal is to, bigger, is just to maybe supply alcohol to other distilleries. I figured out the best way to not pay taxes is by selling it to somebody else. So I don't have to pay taxes. And then as you work in the food business, I work in the food business. I was a chef. I went to Italy. I studied culinary in Florence. I mean, I also went to University of Minnesota. I studied American history. So I pretty know about how cook and alcohol and everything works. I got tired of the restaurant business and I found this job by an accident almost 10 years ago in the kitchen of my house. I took a mistake in the kitchen and opened it with only 50,000 bucks. I asked people to help me, my family to help me, even my wife, and everybody called me crazy. Here I am, still crazy, but going forward. If you guys have any questions, if you guys need any barrels, I have so many barrels of bourbon, sometimes I even know what to do. I even go to the thrift store across the street and I give it to them for free so they can sell them. I actually break in the barrels and making, things to sell to customers. But sometimes I get people who want barrels and say, oh, but I don't need it yet. I can't wait. Barrels, they dry out. So we have to saturate it. We have to fill it with something. So bourbon is 1 barrel. After that, we do rum. We're doing, this year, I was able to get 20 tons of Indian corn, red and blue. I work with local farmers. Some farmers pick up the grain. I convinced him to buy a mill, and he actually built a warehouse in his farm. So he's milling my grain. He's harvesting the grain. So I cut in the middle person. I literally like to cut the middle person so I can save money. Another thing that we're doing is with the epidemic, thanks to Governor Hogan, he allowed us to do cocktails. So, everything pop up. I always thinking outside the box, and we're doing cocktails in cans.
Edgardo, hold back for me. I gotta ask these questions too.
Go ahead. I talk too much.
No, this was perfect. I just don't want you to give the farm away on the first question. No,
that's perfect. That's fine.
First question.
So go ahead.
Oh, okay, we'll come right back because I actually want to tap into the local Maryland connection. Let's get Josh and Alyssa and introduce themselves, and then we're going to start talking about Montgomery County.
Sure. So Josh and I are a married couple. We founded Butterfly Spirits. The company officially began 2019. Our product hit the market, the first one, about 2 weeks before COVID. So we had fantastic timing. Everything that we had planned over the first year of business completely out the window. Every tasting event, none of that could materialize. But we pivoted, and we're so thankful to Montgomery County stores for, introducing our stuff. Those were the first stores we were in. We started with 3, and then eventually, we ramped up to 10 stores, and we're super excited, and then got into all 26. And so that's been really great for us. Josh has another profession. He is a neurosurgeon. We sort of took our hobby and love of cocktails and entertaining and collecting vintage glassware and decided that we wanted to make that a business as well, do something that we love that we can do together. And we felt that there were a couple of areas that could, we had some niches to fill, and we thought we had some good ideas for products that, weren't exactly out there with our botanical focus. And so we started with our botanical liqueur, and we have an elderberry vodka, and our newest is a vodka soda in a can.
And just to add on very, briefly, my daytime job, as it were, discourages creativity in all sorts of ways. People don't like their neurosurgeon to get creative. And so I wanted a creative outlet professionally. The kids are getting older, they're going to leave. I want to make sure that we have a good connection. They're continuing to spend time together from a work perspective. So that was a big driver for us. And as Alyssa said, we felt there were some very small niches in the world of cocktails and the world of spirits that we could fill things in. And so that's what we've really tried to do. And you'll see over time, our products are very specific. They're very niche located, and it has been a ton of fun to do.
I think you're muted.
Melissa, we can't hear you.
I'm talking to myself with no microphone. I told you Zoom has been giving me trouble today. But I think I heard a thread between all of you all: fun, passion, trying something new. And I really, I love that you all have all connected into Montgomery County in some sort of way, all very differently. And so I know Brett, from a Silver Branch perspective, it sounds like Alyssa and Josh, you all were maybe at best 50% pre-COVID, down to 2 weeks pre-COVID. So tell us a little bit about how you chose Montgomery County. How did you sort of settle here? Because I want you guys to talk about your connection to Montgomery County. And then also, what's sort of been the community reception? What's it been like?
We can
go first?
jump on that
Sure,
really quickly because we're going to be the easiest. So I was born here. Oh, and by the way, thank you for your marketing and tourism efforts, because I brought Alyssa here when she was like 6 from Cleveland. So I'm really grateful for all that for the family. So for us, this is home. This is where we wanted to be. It was a pretty easy connection for us to make. And the county's been a great place to open a business. It's been very supportive.
We both grew up here. As Josh said, we graduated from Churchill and
Go Bulldogs.
wanted to keep the business, where we are, what we know.
Love it. Love it. Love it. And then Brett, I heard a Tacoma Park reference in there. Sort of how did you decide on bringing your business to Montgomery County, and what's been the community reception so far? I just think about, there's a German word on your website that I cannot pronounce, that's like that cozy feeling you wanted to create. So talk to us about what the community has been like.
Yeah, that phrase that we refer to as experience Gemütlichkeit, which is that sense of warmth and friendliness and kind of just all together good feelings. It's the easiest way to describe it would be if you're, if you've had half a beer and you're sitting in the sunshine in a beer garden. That's kind of the warm and fuzzy feeling that we're going for, creating for everyone. But for me personally, so I grew up in Northern Virginia. And then I went to live I went to school and lived in North Jersey for a while, worked in New York. And then when I came back down here, I felt like this was sort of at the not even the beginning, but about midstream on the explosion in the DC restaurant scene. And I felt like this was the right area to be in, knowing that I wanted to get into beer and sort of the hospitality business. And then through, a handful of jobs, it led me to Republic in Tacoma Park, which is a part of Black Restaurant Group. And I was like, whoa, where is, because I was used to DC, but I kind of fell in love right then and there. And I moved, and when you're a bar manager or general manager of a restaurant, you spend an incredible amount of time there. And so I just felt like living close by to work was going to be really important for me. And that's when I became a Montgomery County resident. And I've decided to set down roots here. So my fiance and I now live in Sandy Spring. And yeah, I don't know, it just seemed it seemed like this was a great place to be. From the beer side specifically, during my time at Republic, in part because I was an overzealous bar manager, and in part because I had the fortunate luck of meeting Julie Verratti from Denizens, which is now doing important things for the SBA. She actually sold the first keg of self-distributed beer to me back in July of 2014. So sort of as self-distribution was becoming a piece of what, how business operates and how local manufacturers operate within the county, I was very fortunate to be right at the tip of that spear. And so I got to learn a lot. And then I kind of, through my learning and interactions with people, and also finding the right business partner who is also a Montgomery County resident, determined that despite some long-held outside perceptions, that in fact, Montgomery County could be arguably one of the very best places to open a brewery. The legal framework and the, sort of the, I'll just say the vibe, especially in Silver Spring, was just right. It was just right for so many reasons for us. And that's kind of why we landed there. I mean, we were very lucky to find a really cool space that took a lot of work to fix up. We had to, install these huge 20 and 30 foot I-beams because our brewery sits on top of a Dunkin' Donuts, which for a production facility across the street from a metro is a strange and interesting engineering feat, but it just, all these things kind of come together. And so it was the right time for me. And it just, I don't think I would have done it a single other way. I really couldn't be happier.
That is awesome. And I love the connection to Julie and their brewery and kind of breweries helping breweries. And I think that is the perfect segue. And I want to come back to something Edgardo was starting to talk about in terms of how he is partnering with other local businesses. And I know you talked to Edgardo about the grains and, tell us what some of those partnerships look like and why they're important.
Thanks again. By the way, this business was found because of my wife in Montgomery County. So don't thank me, thank my wife.
There's always a woman behind the power, buddy.
Exactly. So happy wife, happy life. So I literally, the way I got into the farmers, I actually went to the fair. Every year we go to the fair. And when I started, I have waste grain than I was getting. So I went to a farmer's, right there. And I asked them, anybody want some extra waste grain for free? And they look at me like I have three eyes. That's how I developed a farm relation with them. I actually buy from Savage Farms, right in Poolsfield, that part of Montgomery County. So he actually came today, pick up grains and drop grains off. He's actually harvesting. He harvests, like I say, Indian corn for me. Not cheap, very difficult to work, even worse than rye. But I learned my lesson. I partnered with another farmers in Latosville who harvest the rye and wheat for us. But mostly I get a lot of corn and rye from the other one, and barley as well. And also we create a lot of waste. We cannot throw the waste in the drain, so they pick it up. We actually, he have a lot of farms and other breweries, and he says, you're the one who gives the most, because literally in any given time, I'm doing 2.5 tons of grain one day. So he fills the totes. We just have 3 different pumps running just in case, one for waste, one for alcohol, and one for mash. So they all separated. But yeah, it's been great, and that's how I met. I mean, I went to the fair. I talked to the guys at the fair. Meet the farmers right there.
No, that's a perfect, I think that embodies the Montgomery County spirit. And want to transition, and Corey's going to be my segue on this one. But I know sort of the pandemic has been front and center on everybody's minds and in your lives for what, 13, 14 months at this point. And so Corey, would love for you to share, including MoCo Eats Week, how you all at Visit Montgomery are helping to support the businesses here in Montgomery County.
Well, I think, a couple well, first of all, thank you, Josh, for the kind words about tourism and coming here. And what comes to mind is all roads lead back to tourism. It's about the experience. It's about not just what it's like to live here in the core sense of the word, but also, how do you have fun? How do you enjoy your time while you're in Montgomery County? And that's what makes this area is so unique and so interesting, is because there are all these experiences. It's the choose your adventure type experience. We like to say it's your weekend, your way, type experience. And so what we've done over the last 14 months or so is we first, like 2 weeks before the pandemic really started and the shutdown started, we happened to start to launch what we're calling our Tastemakers Trail. And that was to feature, and is to feature, all of our breweries, our Twin Valley Distillery, our coffee roasters, all of our craft beverage producers, wineries, things like that. And much like everybody else, it was perfect timing for good and for bad. We've continued to phase that in and continue to expand and grow that brand. And we plan to roll out another part of that experience. But the whole point of the Tastemakers Trail is to not only promote the beverage itself, but also to encourage people to look up from the glass and to get to know the makers, get to know the people that we have on these calls, to experience it firsthand, to sit in a field, to sit in a field drinking a pint, or to be across from the metro while you're drinking, Silver Branch or Eduardo's amazing tasting room. And so that was one piece of it. But then we also saw a need and interest in supporting local restaurants, which also supports our local beverage producers. And so that's where we developed the MoCo Eats brand, which is part of why we're promoting MoCo Eats Week, which is this week, to help support local restaurants along the way.
Yeah, that was absolutely perfect description and perfect segue to this idea of lockdown to light at the end of the tunnel. I know I am super curious, and I'm throwing this out to all of our panelists. So talk a little bit about the journey, this COVID journey, and how have you had to pivot? How have you had to innovate? How have you had to do things differently? And it can be different products, different services, different business models. Is there a silver lining out there? So I know that was a big honking question, but what has it been like for you guys?
Sure, I'll be happy to tackle that first. So honestly, no silver lining. The biggest challenge for us as a baby brand, right? Just getting our legs under us, the ability to engage in marketing was just, or the lack of the ability to engage in marketing, liquid to lips for the alcohol producers was devastating. Tastings went away. Our ability to host events went away. The only access we had actually was social media to folks. And that is also challenging out the gate to get an audience. So that was our biggest push. Another challenge that we had is we were just coming to market, and little things like getting labels approved by the TTB or a new formula approved by the everybody's working from home. Nobody was coming in, no one was doing anything. 2 weeks used to be normal to get a label approved. Now it was 2 months. And so
couldn't get them produced either, because all the printers were printing nothing but sanitizer labels.
Right, you couldn't get bottles. I mean, it was sort of a devastating experience from that perspective. But we knew what we wanted to do, and we just wanted to stay true to our plan, whatever the schedule would be. And that has been, I think, the key for us was not to give up hope on it. And we've been able to rebound on the backside. And to piggyback on something that I think was critical is because of the setup in the county and the way it supports local businesses and local brands, we were able to get to market and get sales done at price points where we weren't being strangled by a distributor, self-distributing in the county, that made it so that we could keep going.
Wow. Brett, Edgardo, Brett, do you want to jump in there on what it's been like?
Sure, I'll take this one. So it was kind of interesting. I think, when Christian, who's my business partner, and I were building Silver Branch, we sort of embraced a swing for the fences mentality. And we opened up like a 10,000 square foot facility right in an office building, which is not an inexpensive undertaking. And we knew from the moment that we opened that the clock was ticking in terms of how long we had to, capture the imagination of individuals and establish ourselves as really like a tap room and production brewery. We didn't have a very long time to figure out enough to make the business viable. And it's funny because we got to our 1-year anniversary, and I have this memory of this Emmett Smith commercial from a long, long time ago where he's doing a bench press and they're like, "Emmett, you just won the Super Bowl. What's next?" And he like lifts the bar and he pauses for a second and he drops it down and he's like, "I'm going to take a break." And it's like that quick. And that's exactly what happened to us. We ultimately, even during our 1-year anniversary party, I'd never forget. I was like, "Wow, man, I can't, like, we did it. Like we made it. Like we built something that's gonna, be viable. Like our whole livelihood has been poured into this thing." And I kid you not, like a week or two later, everything is shut down due to COVID. So that was a really interesting thing. I think you start to learn what you're made of when you open a business. I think you really learn what you're made of when you've opened a business and a pandemic happens. We were very fortunate in a lot of ways because we had just started to crack the code on getting in front of retail buyers like, beer and wine stores. And we were literally packaging beer out of kegs into cans when the pandemic first started, because 50% of our beer supply was in the wrong package format because bars and restaurants were closed and they weren't buying anything. And then we sort of like at that pivotal moment, we, instead of trying to crawl into the tortoiseshell out of panic, we just hit the gas pedal, which in hindsight, I can say that was a good idea. When we made the decision, I think it was a 50-50 toss-up in terms of whether that would be ultimately a wise decision, but it definitely played out for us. And we're very lucky. We expanded our wholesale distribution by more than double over the last year. And we got like a much bigger canning line. We added like several giant stainless steel fermenters in the process. And so we didn't really expect it, but in some weird way, COVID forced us to accelerate our one piece of our business plan in a way that we would have never anticipated. So we realistically are at the wholesale distribution level now that we were anticipating to be at year 4 or 5. And well, you have questions about the future, so I'll hold back some stuff for now, but there's a couple more things that we have on slated. So we'll when we get to that, I'll talk about some of those things.
Okay, now that was perfect. And then Edgardo, I know you talked a little bit about cans when we were opening up. Was that part of your pivot, innovation, sort of change how you're doing things? Did you have any radical changes? I know you were not having people into your distillery. Talk to us about what, talk to us about what COVID looked like for you.
Well, like everybody else, in 2019, I moved the distillery to a new location. So we went from 2,000 square footage to literally 3 warehouses. Just the tasting room is bigger than the original distillery. So, we were starting really good in the end of 2019, beginning of 2020. So everything happened. So when things happen about that, we start going into the cocktails. And, we read the law. We read the law like everybody else. Everybody have their own view of the law. And when Governor Hogan started doing the cocktails and everything, we jump in it. We start doing cocktails in cans and whatever kind of container we were able to get, because it was difficult to get containers. One of my guys, my assistant manager, he's my right hand when I'm not here. He's me when I'm not here. So he came out with the idea, let's start doing this packaging. And so he did, and he's trying to tell me we have to do it in cans. I'm like, look, dude, I don't have money to buy canning equipment. And we are in the glass, not in the wasting can things. It's another warm-up. We just purchased so much equipment. So he keeps bugging me. So I actually was gonna go to the 2 breweries down the street from here, left and right. So I went to the first one, same road, and I was talking to the guy, and we were chatting, asking some questions like, how is this canning done? I mean, from the beginning, I never turned into beer. Like some people go beer to distilling. I went straight to liquor. And then technically he said, hey, I have a machine. It's 6. I said, 6,000? No, 600. Oh, right here. So he gave me a few cans, and when he came, he almost cried, like, oh my God, you bought a machine. I'm like, well, we have to practice. Everything is practice, experiment. So the machine, he told me, that's 16 ounces and 12 ounces. So we figured that 12 ounces, it will be the best weight. So we registered everything in the government. We put, trademarks, everything. And that's the expensive part of this business, doing all those paperwork that nobody likes to pay. So we're launching everything slowly. And, here at the distillery, the tasting room is available to sell. Right now we're doing it over there. People are coming, but it's working, that cocktails little by little. It's something that I saw it years back. That's what I have done, the punch, the hibiscus, and all of them. I did the same formulas, but I just put it in bottles, not in small cocktail with lower percentage. But my formulas were the same.
So let me ask you all, if whoever wants to start is completely open. How do people support you now? Before we talk about the future and what's coming, are you at the festivals? Are you doing events, be it in person or virtual? Are you on social media? Like, how can people connect with you? How can they find your brands? How can they support you?
Melissa, if you don't mind, I'd love to start with that. So one of the great things about an organization like Visit Montgomery and how we support our craft beverage producers is first and foremost brand awareness. We want our reach and our exposure allows for us to be able to educate both residents and visitors what's out there, and that helps to allow small businesses that don't necessarily have big marketing teams to be able to take advantage of the expertise and the infrastructure and the knowledge that we have from a marketing standpoint. But the part that is really becoming critical and has become an interesting trend since the pandemic is the consumers' reliance on technology to have that information in the palm of their hands. And that's why we as an organization have made some investments in technology that can allow for like a MoCo Eats pass for MoCo Eats Week to be downloaded onto people's phones so that they can have in the palm of their hand what's available in their local communities. And the same thing will happen as we roll out the Tastemakers Trail and the Craft Pass for them is to be able to check in at a local distillery or a brewery or a winery and have it be a fun, interactive experience, both in person with the brand itself, but also through technology and interactive within the destination as well. So we like to call it gamifying. We want to gamify technology so that it becomes a fun experience, both in person and digitally. So that's how we are able to promote and support our craft beverage industry here and our restaurants. And it's all about social media for us too.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think, and one other thing, as you talked about your events calendar. I mean, I think it's a great way to get the word out. And I'm actually looking in the chat while everybody is talking. And I want to kick it to Alyssa and Josh real quick, just to make sure everybody, you guys are doing cocktail classes. Even I didn't know this. So share a little bit about that with the group and what you've got going on.
Sure. So we host them monthly, generally Wednesday nights. We've got our next one tomorrow. It'll be on Facebook Live at 6 p.m. We have a wonderful bartender that we partner with, Gunnar Jacobson. It's really funny. Some of you might know him. He used to be at Barrel and Crow in Bethesda. He does a very humorous, fun, 30-minute. He makes cocktails, tells jokes, and it's been great having him do those for us. And so those are generally once a month. You just log on to Facebook, search for Butterfly Spirits, and we'll pop up.
And if I can just tack on to some of that quickly, the power of that is, well, it's not as good as doing it in person. You can touch so many more folks, right? And they don't have to go anywhere. And then we post our recipes and images afterwards, so that you can, and we can talk a little bit about this later. I think the DIY cocktail movement is going to continue to grow in your own kitchen. And then, as we talked about before, we've had to develop a significant social media presence. And it's been interesting learning how Facebook and Instagram work.
A year ago, I had never even used Instagram. I didn't know what a story was, and having to learn it's a whole different world for us, learning all this stuff.
And I think a big outlet last for us has been the ability to participate in farmers markets, particularly the Bethesda's farm markets they're amazing. They're well attended. There are other wonderful brands present there as well. And it's been a great experience for us, not just from a sales perspective, but for the opportunity to get to know the public and for them to get to know our products. So those are some key outlets and channels for us.
No, thank you guys for that. And I know I was looking at Edgardo through the camera when you said farmers markets. I know that's been a really important channel for you as you've grown over the years. Are you back out at the farmers markets? Talk to us about where people find you these days.
Well, during the epidemic, we have to, like everybody else, we lost all those sales of events. We lost a lot of liquor stores that we were selling. So technically, we were able to go from 5 markets when we started to more. So during the epidemic, we jumped into 20 farmers markets because we have to compensate. We have so many, things to do. But during the middle of the epidemic, we had to lay off everybody. So only 2 employees were staying here, and a lot of friends came to help. Then when we were able to get into the more and more farmers markets, everybody started coming in. And about social media, all my social media have been organic, mostly by me, which is, you can tell when it's me because I usually misspell something. You can tell when it's not me. The English is correct. So because my English is not as perfect, I finally got somebody who actually started with my Facebook. At the beginning of this year, he started around almost November. So he's using my Facebook. This month and 2 months ago, he started jumping in Instagram. You can tell nicer pictures, a lot of stuff different. So and now he's doing my Twitter. So he's doing Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And believe it or not, I don't tweet. I mean, I use Facebook. Some people call me old-fashioned, but I said, look, I get all my events in Facebook. I find jobs, I even advertise employment. So that's my communication, but I have somebody who's running my Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
Well, I will say, Edgardo, this is the one industry where being called old-fashioned is not bad. Favorite cocktail ever some days. So, Brett, I want to throw it to you too, because I am thinking, what is it, Tamale Tuesdays and trivia? How can people interact with you all? What kind of events or things are you doing right now?
Yeah, so it's an interesting thing because events were such a massive part of, you know, our day-to-day or even week-to-week existence, and we're just now starting to implement some of those again. We have, as you mentioned, Tamale Tuesday and taco. We're going to add tacos back to the equation for that one too, which has been requested more than once by a lot of people. And we have trivia coming up. What's exciting is for a long time, we would come up with a new beer and we would only be able to sort of release it in online channels or into wholesale or direct from our tap room. Now, when we release a beer, we can throw a safe, socially distant party outside with that. We, like I mentioned before, we're very fortunate that we have a lot of outdoor space. So I think you'd be hard pressed to find another location right in the heart of downtown Silver Spring where there's so many, you know, large 8-foot beer garden tables that are all honestly more than 6 feet apart.
The joys of remote.
Just need a little baby to run through naked or something
I
like
know.
that, and we're all set.
I know, I love it.
Sorry about that. Those were my dogs. But yeah, so I mean, we put everything on our website and Facebook, and we have an excellent marketing manager who makes sure that every corner of the internet that she can reach, it says something about what we're doing. So yeah, I think there's a lot of great ways. And then if you can't make it out to the brewery, then there's always the option to get some even at ABS stores.
Yes,
See that shameless plug?
No, absolutely. And I think, you know, the way we like to think about it is ABS is all boats rise. So whether you buy your products at our stores, whether you purchase, you know, a cocktail made with butterfly at a local restaurant, whether you're, I mean, whatever that is directly impacting makers like yourselves in the market. And so the more people that know about your brands, all boats are going to rise all the way around. So, and I want to take a quick turn. I know we're running a little bit short on time, but I want to talk about the future. And so I want to give each of you all an opportunity to talk about, you know, what's coming next, a peek under the hood, innovations or things that you're seeing out there that you're working on. So would love to, let's say, Corey, I saw you shaking your head. Do you have some really cool things that you and the team are working on there at Visit Montgomery?
Absolutely. I mean, MoCo Eats Week is just the start of what we plan to roll out. Tastemakers Trail will continue to grow and expand over time. And, you know, it's all rooted in because I just like to eat. And, you know, this is, you know, it's fun for me, but no, it's also rooted in what consumer trends are right now and what will continue. And there is a hunger and desire for culinary experiences that are memorable. People want to visit their friends again and, you know, see family again. And, you know, they're looking for experiences that tie multiple places together. You know, self-guided itineraries, you know, visiting one or two places, you know, not just sitting at one restaurant or not just sitting at one brewery, but going to multiple places. And what's amazing about Montgomery County is that, again, because of how it works with small businesses, how ABS works with small businesses to get their brands in the minds of consumers, we'll see an opportunity to grow and expand and see more businesses come to market. And then ultimately that just becomes an even more exciting experience for the consumer, whether it's a resident or visitor.
Absolutely. So Alyssa, Josh, anything you're comfortable sharing about what might come next, or things that you're looking to do?
We have a fourth product, hopefully in the works. Brown spirit, which is something different for us.
Yeah, we are focused. So we're a botanical brand, right? So everything we do is botanically motivated and botanically forward. So we're working on a botanically forward brown spirit, which we hope to put out after Labor Day, which will be, I think, a really cool thing. We hope you'll let us know. The sales will tell.
Excellent. Cannot wait to give it a try. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Brett, anything interesting under the hood there that you're working on?
You might find Silver Branch products internationally, either before this year is over or hopefully at the beginning of next year. So I am in talks. Nothing has been finalized. We're still doing a lot of investigation and learning, but we are hoping to continue to self-distribute in Maryland and DC, and then work with exporters to go to a few other places. But I'll keep those tight for now. But
I love it. So congratulations in advance. We'll keep our fingers and toes crossed. Edgardo, any interesting innovations, things coming our way?
It looks like he's innovating right now.
You're moving. You're muted, Edgardo. We can't hear you.
Yes, I had to move to the tasting room. Yes, I have a few things. I actually trying to target a different demographics. That might be like going towards California, Texas, Florida, pretty much places where they speak Spanish. I noticed that in the bourbon industry is very English speaking. As you probably have noticed, we are not completely white. We have, I also talked to this lady who is a Black Bourbon Society. And I noticed that in the Hispanic culture, they are not into a lot of bourbons. They are a lot into beer, which is Corona, and alcohol, which is tequila. So we need to educate them into bourbon. So might as well go where the more Spanish-speaking communities are. So it's something that we probably release, but it won't be released in Maryland.
Okay. Okay. I am interested and intrigued. So keep us posted on what comes to fruition. And then everybody that is listening in, don't forget to throw your questions in the chat. We've got a small group we can unmute, but we've got about 10 minutes left. And while folks are getting their questions together, and thank you, Brett, you guys have been awesome. While one person's talking, someone else is typing answers in the chat to questions. It's been a beautiful, beautiful scene. But I would love to throw one out there for you. What is your oddest food and beverage pairing that you've ever had that turned out to be delicious? So for me, everyone always says IPA and carrot cake. That's not my thing. I'm a milk stout and carrot cake person. And I will tell you, I have no idea why. My palate is not sophisticated enough to know, but to me, it is absolutely delicious and works. So I'm definitely interested to see what you all are trying and mixing out there.
so mine is not, it may not be that unique because you could see a lot of scenarios where people have encountered this pairing before. But when you open it up and look under the hood and kind of figure out what's actually happening, I think IPA and Buffalo Hot Wings are one of the most prolific. I know this sounds crazy, but one of the most prolific pairings out there, or riffs on that, because what ultimately happens is when you eat spicy food, certain types of beer have a cooling effect or help reduce the heat. With IPA, it actually heightens it, right? And so it's sort of like a flavor maxed out experience because there's like a little bit of bitterness, there's some fruitiness, there's some spice, there's some everything going on. And so I find that there's this really unique, almost quasi-euphoric effect when you eat a couple hot wings and you drink IPA, because it gives you this you get just the tiniest sort of, I get almost like a spicy head glow kind of thing. So it's probably a lot of people have had this combination without even kind of realizing it. But when you drink IPA, it does not cool that spicy sensation. It actually intensifies it pretty dramatically. But if you're like me and you love spicy food, that's a really fun pairing. And there's other ways to riff on it. You know, we used to do like pork belly and like Thai chili with like fruited IPAs, which would create this like crazy sweet, sour, you know, just delicious. It's kind of one of those things. It's like you eat it and then you want to like pass out after. So that's one of my favorite pairings. I'll have to think if there's any other weird ones that I've stumbled across.
So I would tell you the strangest one that's turned out to be great for me, I'm only speaking for myself because this wouldn't qualify for Alyssa, are whiskey soup dumplings. I don't know if anybody's ever had those. Chaplin's makes them or used to make them in Shaw. Everybody knows what soup dumplings are, right? They're the Chinese dumplings that have actually like soup inside them and you bite into them and you sort of drink them and then you eat the shell, right? You know, at least Corey's nodding his head, so I feel like someone is listening. Anyhow, I've had ones that have been infused. What's the soup is actually a cocktail. And so you bite off the end and you drink the shot and then you eat the thing, right? And it totally works and it's great and really cool and inventive. And I can't imagine how much work it is to make so you don't destroy the cocktail when you have the heated dumpling, but it's really great. Chaplin's used to make them down in Shaw. Really neat.
That's cool.
That is super cool. Corey, Edgardo, any favorite pairings? I mean, literally, I'm sitting here getting hungry. I must be honest.
What I like to do is I like to play, you know, I used to be a chef, but most people, you know, in the food business play with a lot of food. When I was in cooking and culinary before I found this beautiful job, was playing with like chocolates and cream liqueurs. So I always play, I like to do like almost like truffles with bourbon and truffles with rum. So the funny thing is I can bake the chocolate cake, so but I really don't want to bake. So I go to Giant and they have this huge muffin with chocolate chips inside it. So I make it. Sometimes I put Grand Marnier, sometimes I put Baileys, and that's how I play it. So now I actually do the same thing with chocolate. As they say, bourbon also goes well with bacon, and I get thick cuts of bacon, dip it in the chocolate, and eat it. But I don't drink. I just snack.
I do, and I'll snack on what you just described without any complaints.
Anytime. But that's,
Right.
that's the beauty of being a cook. You create it, and that's how you see the creation in everything we do. But, you know, it's open-minded in everything. Everything goes.
I'm turning into a snacker myself here listening to you. Corey, any interesting pairings you've discovered?
So I'm not originally from Maryland, so I've only lived here about four years, and I have become obsessed with all things Old Bay. So Old Bay with Manhattan is, you know, Old Bay hot sauce for hot wings, and martinis are great. So I have to say Old Bay paired with pretty much any beverage because Old Bay is just awesome. But I would also say that the most interesting, and I don't know if I would do this on a regular basis, but the most interesting shot I've ever had is actually a s'mores shot, where it was a chocolate cup that was filled with a chocolate liqueur, like a Bailey's or something, you know, some kind of chocolate liqueur, and then a marshmallow foam with graham cracker sprinkled on top. So if you're looking for a beverage dessert, that's probably something to look into.
Absolutely delicious. And I saw a bunch of ideas in the chat. Hefeweizen, lemon chiffon cake, bourbon and peaches, you name it. Delicious. I want to come back to a question that Carol had in the chat. And Carol, you may want to clarify on this one. This is a question for Corey about what's the best website to go to for information. So I'm assuming, Carol, you mean information on sort of events and happenings, but clarify for us.
Sure, events and happenings, and you know, this Tastemakers Trail and MoCo Eats. Is there one like consolidated place for all of this information?
Thank you. That's a really good question. So the consolidated place is visitmontgomery.com. So that's our primary website that includes anything and all things to do in Montgomery County. And then in the top navigation, you can click on events and that'll take you over to our events calendar. And then Tastemakers Trail is actually tastemakerstrail.com. And that is where you can learn about our craft beverage producers. And then MoCo Eats is mocoeats.com. So all of them aggregate towards Visit Montgomery, but those are easy to remember names for specific information that you're looking for.
Excellent. Awesome. Any other questions from the audience? Things that, these folks were talking about that you were wondering? We've probably got time for one more. I'm scrolling through the chat just to make sure I didn't miss something. It looks like most of them got answered. But feel free, unmute yourself if you would like to ask a quick question.
So are things opening up now for tastings or for at least gatherings?
Well, all ears on that question up here.
They're beginning to. We're starting to see the early signs. I don't know what percentage of that is currently happening in Montgomery County, but there are some counties inside the state of Maryland where in-store tastings they're beginning to write schedules. Some retailers established sort of glass paneled booths for people to be able to stand in to taste safely. And I think they'll continue to implement some practices, but we just started seeing that across the state in certain jurisdictions that retailers are asking us to get onto their schedule for sometime, towards the end of May or in the middle of June. So it's just beginning as far as in-store tastings. And then from the retail sort of restaurant hospitality side, there's still opportunities for people to go out to some extent, but they're just reduced to make sure that everybody's still safe. I have, just because it's relevant to my beer specifically, I have noticed that the farm breweries always do well in the summer. They are doing especially well during these times. I think outdoor space is really relevant. So I see more stuff still happening outside, but I am beginning to see in certain counties across the state the first sort of opportunities to taste.
Yeah. And I mean, I think I'll dovetail because I also I see Corey on and even Kelly from Visit Montgomery, but for our stores, we're not ready to do tastings inside yet. We're not ready to draw a lot of people, into an indoor space quite yet. But I know the county itself, and there was some press releases that went out today about how they're thinking through guidance in terms of the next 3 sort of phases. So I don't know, Corey or Kelly, if you wanted to offer a little bit more there.
Sure, I can jump in. So yes, so the county council implemented a 3-phased reopening plan today. Actually, it started at 5 o'clock. So it's all based around the number of vaccinations or what percentage the residents are vaccinated. So I'm going to include in the chat a link to a page that we have on visitmontgomery.com that talks a little bit about what phase we're currently in, and then it has some supporting links on how the county will get to the next phases. It's literally hot off the presses. It was a few hours ago.
Melissa, if I could just chime in quickly to piggyback on what Brett said, we're definitely seeing opportunities open up outside of Montgomery County for tastings. And I'm willing to go to any Montgomery County store with a roll of tape and mark out on the sidewalk that that's part of the store inside, so that you will please let us have tastings in the counties outside in a safe fashion, in a responsible fashion, but that will still let the members of our community get to know the new brands and the established brands in the county.
No, absolutely. And I will just give a little shout out. Kathy Durbin is on the line. She's our acting director for ABS. So I know she will take your commentary back to the team, as will I. It's something we've been thinking about, and it's, safety first. Like, we want to make sure what we're doing is safe for our residents. But, as we look through some of that guidance that's coming out, I think some of those decisions will be on the horizon. So I want to thank all of you all, Josh, Alyssa, Corey, Brett, Edgardo. I cannot thank you enough for doing this. I have learned a ton about your brands, and I have so much respect for what you do, how you do it, and it's so commendable what you are doing here in the county and your fellow beverage makers. So I do not have the appropriate glass in hand, but I am sending you cheers, and thank everyone else for joining us tonight. We hope to see you at our next virtual event. So thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Melissa. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.